Tales from the Podcast is brought to you by the following generous sponsorships. House of Mysterious Secrets. Visit houseofmysterioussecrets.com and use the discount code 4130 to save 10%. TalesFromThePodcast.com, where you can pick up your copy of Tales of Shock and Terror #1. The Skewered Universe Podcast. And viewers like you.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Podcast. I'm JB. That's Jeff. How's it going, man?
Hey, I can't complain. I mean, well,
Then you can.
considering everything that's been happening the last couple of weeks, yeah, I could complain, but it's not going to improve anything. So,
No, I just I can't complain. Like, dude, if anybody has a right to complain right now, I would give it to you. It's okay.
You know what? In the grand scheme of things, computer issues ain't that big a deal, really.
Yeah, I mean, they can be.
They can be. Luckily, it's not catastrophic yet, but
right. No, it's all good though. I mean, we're here, and we got some tales from the crypt to do.
That we do.
Yes, we do. Before we do that, though, man, I gotta ask you. You've been hearing all this stuff about the new Beetlejuice?
I have actually. I have been hearing quite a bit about it. Sorry,
Yeah?
I have a cable here that I'm trying to get out of the way that I didn't clear ahead of time.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, I've been hearing about it. I heard some things, but I'm trying to not overexpose myself too much and drive up my level of excitement. I don't want to set my expectations too high and then be let down.
Well, I mean, I understand that. It's not like there's a teaser trailer or anything yet, but
Right, it's just some announcements going on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got from just some of the stuff that's been announced and thrown out there. You got Tim Burton coming back.
Mm-hmm.
You got Jenna Ortega, Monica Bellucci, Michael Keaton, Justin Theroux, Winona Ryder, Willem Dafoe, and Catherine O'Hara.
See, I knew about the originals coming back. I didn't know about Dafoe, Bellucci, or Theroux, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there might be some speculation there, but I mean, it's still. Luckily Beetlejuice is covered up in so much makeup that I think Michael Keaton still might be able to pull it off pretty well.
Oh yeah, I think he's still got the chops to be able to do it.
Right. It wouldn't be like him coming back to do Batman where he looks 40 years older, you know what I mean?
Right. Which, I mean, for that version of Batman, it does kind of work because he is playing an older Batman. So it's not like he's trying to redo the 89 version.
I could see him as Bruce in a Batman Beyond type movie.
Yeah. Well, that's what the rumor was going for that Batwoman movie that DC and Warner Brothers just went, nah, stick it on the shelf. We don't really want to do it now.
Well, I mean, their track record hasn't exactly been the greatest.
True, but I mean, you could have at least given it to the fans and seen what they thought. Who knows? Maybe it was a good movie.
Right. David says, I read Jenna Ortega is going to play Lydia's daughter. That's exactly what I hear as well. So, I mean, you know, we will wait and see. I mean, it sounds like it would be cool, but I mean, who knows? They might have distribution issues. I mean, fucking this new Crow movie's been completely fucking filmed, and they're waiting on distribution issues. So I mean,
Yeah.
and who the fuck is holding up distribution with Bill Skarsgård playing fucking Eric Draven? Whoever that cocksucker is just needs to sign over the paperwork.
I don't understand how this works. I mean, so many of the heads over at Warner Brothers Discovery, because of their whole HBO Max thing, they just gutted a whole bunch of projects. And granted, DC doesn't have a good track record, but a lot of the stuff they were gutting was TV stuff, and I'm like, you had a good track record with television stuff. It's the movies that need work.
Right. I agree.
But,
like
I don't know,
they trashed all that stuff, but they're making that Penguin movie.
Well, the Penguin is actually just going to be a series.
Oh, is it?
It is going to be a series, yeah. So I think that's a better scale for that character.
I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, right now, DC's only two things that I think are worth a fuck, personally, are Titans and the Peacemaker.
I haven't seen either one of those yet. I've been meaning to get to them, but
I mean, that's just my own personal opinion. I mean, there's people out there that like this stuff a lot more than me, and that's fine. But I mean, it's
I'll watch anything with Batman just because I've been a huge Batman fan my entire life. But as far as the other stuff, like I got hyped up for the first Suicide Squad movie and was completely let down.
Yeah,
and was actually pleasantly surprised with the James Gunn one because it was a lot more fun and tongue in cheek. It knew exactly what it was going to be.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong there. Dave says he read one of the Beetlejuice sequels was going to be that was set in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could see that. I mean,
yeah, for a long time, Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian was the rumor.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, there's not too much out there about it yet, but it is exciting.
Yeah,
I also
think real quick, I was going to say I think Jenna Ortega playing Lydia's daughter is actually kind of smart casting since she even said that character was kind of inspiration for her take on Wednesday for that Netflix series. So we'll see.
I mean, I
hopefully
don't know.
It's good.
Personally, I mean, I think there's a lot of hype around Ortega, but I mean,
true.
Wednesday wasn't my Addams Family per se. I'm not saying it wasn't a hit and that people didn't like it, but it definitely wasn't made for the 35-year-old male who's watched Addams Family growing up.
Yeah, we're not the demographic they're shooting for.
No, I'm not sure who they're shooting for, but we're not it. That's for sure.
The younger TikTok generation, and I say younger because spans the gamut now. TikTok is everywhere.
Yeah, like I'm not sure what was more popular, the Wednesday series or just the dance.
You make a good point.
Like, did anybody even care about the series? Because I'm pretty sure they cared a lot more about her dance. He goes, I wonder, Lydia and Beetlejuice are going to still being enemies? Are they going to be best friends like in the cartoon series? I mean, me personally, being the age I am and watching that and being able to watch the cartoon, I really liked how they went with the cartoon series. But I mean, it's going to be one of those things where it's just like, who knows? I mean, it's really hard saying.
I always took the cartoon series as they kind of buried the hatchet and just kind of moved on. Like, hey, I know I kind of screwed up, but hey, let's have some wacky fun adventures in the underworld.
Right, and I thought that was a lot of fun,
Yeah.
But I mean, we were that age,
Exactly.
We got weird cartoons, I mean, you guys, this, like my kids, man, like they're never gonna know what Biker Mice from Mars was.
Nope. Street Sharks.
No, Street Sharks was the shit. They're not ever gonna have these cool cartoons that we grew up.
The only one they'll know is Ninja Turtles because there's been 800 million versions
that
of
and
it.
Scooby-Doo, but they're never gonna know the versions that we knew.
Nope.
They're never gonna know the joys of putting in those FYI VHSs.
Oh man. or knowing when you couldn't watch the cartoons because the weekend wasn't there, using your read-along tapes in your little tape player. I had a couple of Scooby-Doo ones, so.
Oh man, yeah.
In my little Fisher-Price tape player.
God damn, we're getting old.
Yeah, people are like, Fisher-Price, what's that? Shut up.
I come to think of it, I don't think it's really much of a thing anymore.
No, not unless you got like an infant, I think, and that's about it.
Even then, I mean, they just throw devices in front of kids now, so it's kind of,
Yeah.
you know, they know what a tablet is. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, sir, we're going to talk about an episode of Tales from the Crypt from season 7.
Yeah, the infamous
And,
season 7, from what I've heard all this time.
Yeah, and this one is titled Confession. This is episode 11, and it originally aired July 5th of 1996. I mean, think about this for a second, okay? We are on episode 11 of season 7. That means there is 2 more episodes after this.
Yeah.
2.
2 more.
I mean, I feel bad that you joined at such a shitty time because you did miss a lot of the good stuff. Man. But I mean, we will see. We'll keep going with this. Now to, I guess, jump into this episode just a little bit here. It was directed by Peter Hewitt. Peter Hewitt, who, I mean, he did direct some pretty big things, but also some really, like, just not, I don't know. His stuff is like super fucking hit and miss. Okay. Like, we got Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Okay. That's a hit.
We got 1995's Tom and Huck. We got The Borrowers from 97. We got Thunderpants, Garfield, Zoom, Home Alone, The Holiday Heist.
Ooh, man, this is like a straight to video dungeon.
Like starting up here and just fucking, he's like, yeah, let's just throw my career right off the fucking cliff.
And what's funny is I've heard that movie Thunderpants mentioned way back when on another podcast when I was just a listener. Oh, like in 2008, 2009.
Dude.
They didn't even talk about what it was about. They're like, hey, there's just a movie named Thunderpants. Like, what the hell?
Well, I guess I have to do it now. Here's the synopsis. An 11-year-old boy's amazing ability to break wind leads him first to fame and then to death row before it helps him to fulfill his ambition of becoming an astronaut.
Okay. I think we have to do this for the show. We have to do Thunderpants at some point.
I'm not going to say no. I mean, as horrible as it sounds like something that you and I would still enjoy.
On some level, we would find some kind of enjoyment, and that's what scares me.
Right.
That's what scares me.
I've noticed how this episode is sort of like a version of the film The Usual Suspect because it takes place in a police interrogation room. And I think that plot twist is very similar, but in reverse. And Dave says, Thunderpants ho!
Oh, man. So is that a subtle hint that people are wanting us to do the Thundercats series? Because
Oh God. You know, I not to brag, but I was I think it was like, man, it had to have been like the first week it came out. I had all of the fucking DVD sets for Thundercats.
Dude, I wanted to get them so bad. And it popped up somewhere streaming, and I was watching it.
So I can't. The new ones it wasn't for me.
I liked the old ones. That's what I grew up on. But the new one for me had enough nods to the original, and then just still had some new stuff that it brought in that I was like, okay, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It was sort of like the new Masters of the Universe for me. Like, it did enough things different.
See, one of my biggest problems, especially with a lot of this newer animation stuff, is the style of animation.
I get that.
And it's hard for me to be involved. Like I got fucking cells on my fucking wall. Cartoon. You know, what is that today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's nothing. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. It's no longer there.
Exactly. To continue on this, we got Scott Nimmerfro doing the screenplay. As far as screenplays, I mean, this guy is basically stuck to TV. Star Trek Voyager, Tales from the Crypt, Perversions of Science, The Outer Limits, Stargate, The Gates. I mean, the guy has been a very big genre writer for a very long time. But he didn't just write, he's produced, he's been a crew member. I mean, he was even additional crew for stuff like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and he produced the 2000 X-Men movie. So I mean, he's been around.
Right.
With the shit that guy knows, I mean, anytime his name's attached to something, it should mean something. Unfortunately, with Tales from the Crypt and having 45 different producers, sometimes it doesn't mean a fucking thing.
Yeah, sometimes it means you're just on board as a producer in title.
Exactly. Now, in this episode, our main star, I'm going to say, is Eddie Izzard, back when Eddie Izzard was a man. So should we refer to Eddie Izzard as a he or a she? Because at this time, he was a he.
I think we refer to her in the present tense, and we can make note of the fact that, she was still going by he then.
Right.
I think it's just the easiest way. I mean, I actually wasn't aware she was going by she, her until earlier
I believe
today.
she's been transgendered for a very, very long time.
And
because I know it's been like 25, 30 years when, she did that whole I'm a lesbian trapped in a man's body thing.
Right.
And, don't say shit to me because that's a direct fucking quote from her.
Exactly. One of the comedy specials from way back when.
Yeah. But, I mean, this is a tough one to like try to figure out how, because like, that person's work, I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm not going to go back and forth from when and where. But I mean, Mystery Men. I'm going to just throw it out there right now. Might be one of the best superhero movies ever made.
Mystery Men is so much fun.
It really, really is. It truly is a blast. Eddie Izzard also was in Ocean's 12. The Wild, My Super Ex-Girlfriend. What God damn, this is gonna sound horrible, but one of my favorite musicals of all time, Across the Universe.
I have not seen it, but I'm not a huge Beatles person. So.
Yeah, I'm not a huge musical person or Beatles person, but I thought they did a really good job with that. Obviously, I'm gonna say Eddie Izzard is definitely most well known for the comedy series and everything. Really no argument there with anything. And I do know that recently was actually in the newer version of Kids in the Hall as well.
Yes, just last year playing Repairman in one of the skits.
Right. Also, the late Alexis Arquette was originally a guy. Yes, you are correct. You are correct. Yes. Both of which you can tell very, very clearly. That was probably not the right
thing to say. You didn't mean it from a place of hatred or anything like that. You're stating from your own point of view.
Right. I'm just stating like those Alexis Arquette and Eddie Izzard are two of them that you can look at and be like, I could tell what they really were. The next person, I have a really hard time with this name.
Tyrion Hines.
There we go. Very, very, very familiar person. And I got a feeling it's probably because he was Aberforth Dumbledore. And he was also in The Woman in Black too, the 2012 one.
I still have not seen that one.
I will say it's not horrible. I will also say it's not amazing. I mean,
that's what I've heard. They're like, it's fine.
Like it's not like I didn't feel like I wasted my time.
Right.
But I mean, it wasn't like I went, finished it and was like, oh God, that was great. But I mean, this guy's done a shit ton of work. I mean, a ton of foreign work, a ton of non-foreign. I mean, Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
The 2004 Phantom of the Opera, Munich, Rome, In Bruges, which I will also say is, I don't know if you've never seen In Bruges. That's a really, really good movie.
I have not. I've had a hang up about watching it. Somebody I used to work with who's really kind of a shitty person kept recommending it. So
fair enough.
I have to get over my little hang up of him being a shitty person.
No, I hold that grudge. Hold that grudge. Never let it go. Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance.
That's what I first knew him from, and then of course he's the voice of Steppenwolf in both versions of Justice League, which both equally did just as poorly as I ever expected.
Really? They did?
Yeah. Yeah, even with fanboys bullying Warner Brothers to release the Snyder version.
I've talked about this many times in the past. I am gonna throw it out there though. Zack Snyder's a piece of shit. That's simple. I mean, I like Zack Snyder about as much as I like Nicolas Cage. Like, let's think about the good movies Zack Snyder's made. Oh, none. Okay.
The only two pieces of his work that I like, one is Watchmen, just because I don't know the comics, so I enjoyed it for what it was. And the
Okay.
2004 Dawn of the Dead remake, and the caveat to that being it was written by James Gunn. So that's why we had some fun sequences.
I do not.
His directing
like that
style
remake.
is not for me. His directing style is not for me.
I did not like that. I did not like Sucker Punch. I did not like Man of Steel. I did not like Batman versus Superman. I did
Nope.
not like Justice League. I mean, you know what movie really sucked that he did? Army of the Dead.
Oh yeah, and it got a
he
sequel.
is right there. And Hammer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge Hammer fan.
horror.
So I mean, I'm even part of all their little groups and shit. I mean,
I'm seriously lacking in my Hammer knowledge, but I'm
We've
working
done a
on
few
it.
Hammer movies on the show, but no. I mean, I'm personally though, I'm not a Zack Snyder fan. I mean, and I really
not
don't
either.
understand why there are people that are. I mean,
he
it's like you
you
read
look-
source material and he's like, hey, how can I fuck this up?
yeah, like I saw people defending Zack, and not to get off on too much of a tangent, so we got this Tales episode, but
Yeah,
I was on a thread the other day. They were defending Zack Snyder's version of Superman, saying it was a more modern take, and there was the other side going, basically calling these people and going, "Are you stupid?" Because it was really a shitty take, and it wasn't what the character stood for.
yeah, it wasn't.
And they're like, "Well, the Christopher Reeve version was so dated and cheesy." I'm like, "No, that's actually a comic accurate portrayal if you actually read the story."
No, you were not wrong, and I will argue it up and down too that fucking Dean Cain did a great job as Superman.
Yeah, I'll say this: a friend of mine said a few years back, Marvel made the best Superman movie with Captain America: Captain America: The First Avenger, where DC can't get it right. Marvel made a good Superman movie with that, and I'm like, technically you're right. Technically you're right, because all the values that Superman holds dear, same as Captain America. We got a better version in Marvel than DC has given us since way back when Reeve was doing it. Actually,
you're
unfair.
wrong.
The Brandon Routh movie was the closest we got. Superman Returns.
All right, that's fair. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue this.
Yes. Alan Armstrong, I think, is where we were going next.
Yeah, you are correct. Alan Armstrong.
Mr. Hafez.
The Mummy Returns. That's exactly where I go with it too. I also liked him in Sleepy Hollow.
See, I forgot he was in Sleepy Hollow, and then I looked it up and I went, okay. Yeah. He's just so Mummy Returns to me, and then the next one, unfortunately, is Van Helsing.
Oh yeah, that's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I really liked that Sleepy Hollow movie. He was also in Kroll though as well. So I mean, this guy's been in a ton of fucking shit. Another movie that they've been talking about doing remakes of these books forever too. He was in the Aragon movie as well.
Oh really?
So if you ever got a chance to check that out.
I haven't yet. It never really seemed like something I would watch, but I'll probably have to check it out just for him alone.
I mean, if you're into dragons, I mean, it's not bad.
Well, dragons are cool.
I was just about to say, who doesn't like dragons? I mean, you'd have to basically be a douchebag not to like dragons.
If you don't like dragons, just, you can tune out now.
Right? You can just go fuck yourself. So going ahead and continuing, because I mean, other than that, like Alan Armstrong, I mean, there's a ton of fucking shit. Look him up. I mean, he has over 150 credits. I mean, it's hard to go through somebody like that's career. I mean, you should know who the fuck he is when you see him on screen.
He has one of those faces. You've seen him in something.
Right. You're not wrong. Same thing with the next guy though, John Benfield. He looks like somebody that you've seen in a bunch of fucking shit. And unfortunately, not as much good shit, but he has done some voice work as well. He was in that Mowgli, The Legend of the Jungle. He did the Wolf Elder voice there. And I mean, the guy's been in so much shit too. Unfortunately, not as good of shit like Speed Racer. He was in the TV Bonkers series, Gifted, An Angel from May, Charlotte Gray, Endgame. I mean, the guy, ton of fucking shit. The 101 Dalmatians, Prime Suspect, that whole fucking series. He was in that. He was in the Zorro TV series from the early 90s. I mean, this guy's been acting since the early 80s. So, I mean, he's just somebody that, like, if you've seen a lot of, TV shows and just genre shit in general, you've probably seen him in some things. I will say I do remember him in the, it sounds stupid, but do you remember the Hitler's SS Portrait in Evil?
No, the name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've ever.
Yeah, it's a weird 80s TV movie. Don't ask me how I got my hands on that.
Okay, yeah, I've heard it mentioned before, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, this one just blew by me.
Yeah, it's a weird one that, like, I mean, I'm not even sure if you could find it anymore, but it's just one of those things where I recognize him from that. Anyways, to continue it, playing the role of Scrimp, we also got Ashley Artis in this episode too. He was a Death Eater in Harry Potter. He was a Squatter in Judge Dredd. I mean, he is somebody who's in a bunch of shit and some pretty big shit too, like Les Mis. Some bigger name things, but never really big roles. In some of the bigger movies he's ever been in, he's never even had a name. Harry Potter, He was Death Eater. Judge Dredd, he was Squatter 1. Les Mis, he was Pawnbroker. And Immortality, he was Gang Leader. I mean, the only time he really even gets names is when he's in just random little things that nobody, like the Queen's Nose TV series. He played Rod.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Other than that, like the big stuff that he's done, though, I mean, just.
Now, that Judge Dredd you were talking about, was that the newer one or was that the Sylvester Stallone one?
95, buddy.
Okay.
The newer
one.
I've
tried to forget that I've seen that one.
I did not even watch it. I saw it came out and I was like, fuck that.
I saw it way back and I was like, okay, what is this? And I watched it and I'm like, what the hell? And then I learned more about what Judge Dredd actually is and went, oh, God.
Yeah, I have a bunch of the comic books too.
Yeah.
He goes, there was a comedy movie called They Saved Hitler's Brain. I've never seen that one, but it definitely sounds like it could be pretty interesting. That's for sure.
Oh, man.
But I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this episode. Usually we talk about these things behind the scenes, but we're just going to do it now. Do you want to do the episode or the comic book?
What do you feel more comfortable doing? Because I know you got to the comic book a little later.
I mean, they're both so simplistic and so. I mean, realistically, I could go through both of them in the matter of 5 to 10 minutes tops.
All right, I'll take the episode. You take the comic. How's that?
Sounds good to me, buddy. Go ahead. I mean, there's not a lot in this episode when you really break it down. So, I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of filler.
There really is. So, plot synopsis here is basically Evans, a sly horror screenwriter, suspected in a series of grisly murders of women whose heads were taken by the killer as trophies, is interrogated by Jack Lynch, a clever, hard-boiled homicide detective whom every cop idolizes. Spoiler, you also find out exactly what he is pretty right away if you're paying attention, but we'll get there. So,
I don't think there's an episode where it's like, you're like 2 seconds in. I saw that coming.
So we open on, cop car pulling up, these two detectives going to this like nightclub. There's
I
been
think it
another
was a
murder,
strip club.
like a strip club, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And before I go any further, did this seem like they didn't know what time period they really wanted to set this in from the beginning? Because it's an older cop car, and they were dressed in trench coats like old time detectives, almost like 40s era.
With it being in the UK, it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
So I would agree with you if it was American, but with the UK, it's like I'm pretty sure the UK is trying to be America from 30 years ago at all times.
Okay.
So, but I might be entirely wrong. So
at first I was like, oh, it's a period piece. Okay, that's similar to the comic. And then all of a sudden there's TV screens and whatever. I'm like, wait, what time period are they going for?
Yeah.
Well, these two cops are called in because there's been another murder. There's another woman's body, obviously decapitated.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to figure out, they're like, this is the third woman, so far. What the hell's going on? We need to call in Jack Lynch. But they're told by one of the beat cops there, hey, we caught the guy who did it. He's washing his hands in the alley. That looks like blood. Yeah. So that's where they decide, okay, we're gonna go down there. We're gonna get Jack Lynch in to help us because he's the guy who knows all about serial killers. And so go to the station. Eddie Izzard, playing Warhol Evans, is our horror writer, who is in the interrogation room telling him, you got the wrong guy, didn't do it. Why is it a crime to wash your hands? All this stuff. Enter Jack Lynch, played by Syrian Hines. Just a dick to everyone and anyone.
Right.
The young cop that told the detectives they found the guy washing his hands in an alley is told by Lynch after he gives him the file saying, hey, these two detectives brought a guy in. They think he's good for this. He goes, yeah, well, tell them to go fuck themselves.
Right. Well, you can tell he was already pissed off because he didn't get a promotion and
no promotion. They called him in while he was bowling because he's an avid bowler, apparently.
Well,
you get that because he's carrying a bowling bag around with him at all times.
Yeah.
Basically, what happens next is Lynch starts interrogating Evans, trying to get him to get a confession out of him that he did these murders, the most recent one and the two prior. He's trying everything. He says, we're going to hold you because I can hold you as a terrorist. So that means you don't get to leave.
Right.
You
can go on. Yeah, he's just talking about the
the eye
doctor in the beginning. Yeah.
I have a question about that at the end because I need to pick your brain on something. But
okay.
So we see Lynch steps away after telling him you can be held as a terrorist. I'll be back, whatever. And he's having a conversation with the young cop, just about whatever random things like, oh, you didn't get the promotion. That kind of sucks, but you're smarter than them. I don't know why these other two detectives got it. This young cop starts fiddling with homeboy's bowling bag and starts to grab his bowling ball, and he goes, hey, Scrimp, do you always handle other men's balls without permission? Which I thought was a funny line. That was the funniest line of the whole show. I laughed at that one.
Right.
It's like, okay. The only time this guy had any sort of humor to him, this character is just pissed off at the world the entire time.
Yeah.
So moving forward, Lynch is told that, you're wanted interrogation. The suspect wants to talk to you. So he goes in, and this guy's going, I can help you. I've done research. I can help you figure out the killer's motive and help you find this guy. Because it's obviously not me. If you would actually look, maybe it's a cop. Maybe it's somebody else. You need to look at all the signs. He's going through. Basically, he's working the case as if he's a cop, but he's just a horror writer. One thing I did want to mention here, when Lynch is running down all the accomplishments, all the stuff that Warhol Evans has written, Goes, oh, you wrote for Tales from the Crypt. What's that?
Yep.
And then he blows it off like, oh, it's just ancient history. I'm like, was somebody pissed off about being brought in for season 7?
Well, I mean,
Or-
at this point, we're a couple
Or was it
episodes
pissed
off,
off
so
that it was being canceled?
they probably knew it was being canceled. Production was only there for a year, though, so I mean, the actors really had no right to be mad about anything. But there's actually another really, really huge nod to Tales from the Crypt in this episode.
The book.
Did you notice the book, though?
I did notice the book, and I actually looked it up afterwards because it has the names of 2 of the producers, Adler and
Cats.
Katz.
Yeah.
So,
which I thought was a really cool nod there, even though, yeah.
I saw it and I went, wait, Adler, Katz, wait a minute. So I finished the episode, then I went back and went, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's not a whole lot of trivia on this or extra things.
I mean, I'll be honest, I never really look up trivia. It's just something I noticed.
Yeah. I did because I was like, wait, those names are familiar because you ran down the producers for me before. So it's like, these names are definitely familiar to me.
Right. I mean, I got their names and stuff all over my house. So it's, for me, it's something I notice all the fucking time. But I will say, coming up in the episode, though, like after he does this whole thing with him, the turnaround with Evans, talking about the disgruntled employee, the strong right arm, probably a bowler,
Yeah,
nailing everything right on the fucking head.
He starts giving a profile of this killer as if he works for like the FBI. You know, he's could be a bowler. Look at the bruises on the neck. He's stronger in the right arm. Calling him out, and you can see how much more pissed Lynch is getting, and he's like, "Oh, well, like we said, what about this book? It's about satanic cults. It's research. That's where I get all my info. I do research. That's how I know so much."
Right.
And Lynch does not like it. He goes, "Fine." Evans goes, "Well, I want my phone call. If you're gonna hold me, I need to make a phone call. Whatever." So he calls. I believe it's either a wife or a girlfriend. They don't really tell us.
Right. I don't know, but there's a super obvious microphone.
Yeah, the largest microphone that you should never miss.
Right.
So Evans gets, basically thrown at the phone by the guard. This guard is a dick too, because him and Lynch have a thing going on.
Yeah, but I mean, the source material guards in comparison, fuck, these guys are easy.
Yeah, these guys. We'll get there. So Evans is calling home to his wife or girlfriend, significant other, telling her, pack a bag, get out of town, go to your mother's. I've been arrested. It's not a big deal. Just get out of town. Oh, by the way, you know that square black bag I have in the back of the cabinet? Grab that and dump it. And about this time, this is where Lynch kind of comes around the corner wearing the most obvious earpiece that he's listening in.
Wired
earpiece, which runs apparently to the biggest microphone that's supposed to be so small.
Yeah.
He heard everything. And this is the worst acting in the episode, by the way. The guards come to pull Evans away, and he goes, no! As he's being dragged away. I was like, everything to this point was fine, and then you had to go, and do that? I don't know if it was Izzard's choice or if it was the director, but
I'm gonna say with season 7, I know a lot of the bad choices were put on Silver.
Because I'm like, he could have just been like, I'm telling you, it's not me. Something instead of just no. I don't. Nitpick anyway. So
right. No, you're definitely not wrong there at all. I mean, well, go ahead and continue. I mean, you're basically at the end of the episode anyway.
Yeah. So we come back to the interrogation room. They have brought in so much stuff from Warhol's apartment. The square black bag in question, a bunch of other stuff, and Lynch is just running down. You've rented this many tapes. X amount of them were porn. It was bondage. There was this. You had a court case for molesting a young child. Sexual assault on a minor. He goes, that's old news. I've paid my debt to society. He goes, yeah, well, there's also been bondage clubs, this and that. You were at this club, this. Basically saying you're a degenerate. And we like you for this because everything you're doing ties right in.
Right. You're not wrong.
And then we get the reveal of what's in the black bag after, Evans, he takes a turn here, which I didn't really like. The character kind of turns at this point, because before he's been kind of like this douchebag know-it-all. I've done all the research. I'm a better cop than you are. Maybe you should be looking within the precinct for the killer. Now he's like disconnected, like, uh. So Lynch grabs the bag, opens it up, and there's a head in a jar. He goes, "Oh yeah, I bought that at a carnival sideshow.
Right.
I thought he looked funny."
I understand that.
I do too. I'm like, I would probably buy something like that too. So this does not a killer make.
No.
Maybe a little weird, but hey, I would
Right.
have that as a
It's not like
centerpiece
they were
of my-
heads in his fridge.
Yeah. So
You're welcome.
speaking of heads in the fridge,
Yeah.
this basically wraps up the case. Lynch goes home, and he's opening his bowling bag as he sits down in his shitty little dirty apartment. Pulls out half of a bowling ball, and then removes a severed head. And as he gets up, if you look at the carpet down below, you can see the trail where he's moved previous body parts and severed heads along the same path, doing the exact same routine. And he walks over to his fridge, which he's turned all the way down, so it's all nice and frosty.
I mean, even if you turned a fridge all the way down, it wouldn't turn it into
wouldn't
a freezer.
it wouldn't get that cold.
No, not at all.
And he sets this head in next to the other two from the previous two women who were murdered by him and grabs a beer, and that's how we end.
I mean, you are correct there.
I mean, he did make mention, I forgot to mention, when he first went to the interrogation room, he and the guard had an altercation. The guard said, "Oh, you carry around that bowling bag as a trophy." And he looks at it and goes, "Serial killers take trophies. I'm just an avid bowler." I'm like, and when he said that, I'm like, yeah, but an avid bowler wouldn't be carrying that around. You got a head in that bag. I know it. And from there, I was like,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, I've never seen a bowler take their ball anywhere else. Like, it's not like he walked to the police station.
Yeah.
But anyways, to continue with it, go into the comic book story. I mean, we obviously go through just the differences because we just watched the episode. And there are a few differences, but I'm not going to say a lot. First off, there is no serial killer aspect to this whatsoever. It is a hit and run case. That simple. Same kind of concept, though. They're trying to put the blame on somebody. But with this one, instead of trying to make this person admit guilt from trying to basically, get something on him, instead they beat this guy not just with their hands, fists, but with a lead pipe until he finally, it was like they fucking get to the point of like almost breaking his arm, to the point where he finally is just so beat up where he admits he did it. And there's no proof really that he did anything. There's proof showing that his dents and that his headlights been broke for a while now. And they find proof that it has been broke for a while. And they end up just basically beating the shit out of this guy until he admits it, which I'll get to that in a second. But, by the end of it, the lieutenant, they find out it's his wife. So that makes it even worse. They really beat the shit out of him hard. And then after he finally signs this confession, they show the lieutenant going and replacing his light bulb because he was the one who did it, or his headlight. And I will say, oddly enough, this comic book from the 50s really shows us how the police still are today.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought when I finished reading it. I was like, there was two things. I went, wow, I really liked that because I wasn't quite sure where the end was going to be, just because I haven't read a lot of these stories. So going in blind, I didn't pick out the twist there. But two, I was like, damn, this is still very prevalent for the way they are today. Because I've watched those documentaries where they've coerced and forced confessions out of innocent people.
They still do it. I mean, the way a lot of police stations get paid and everything is based, and a lot of their credibility is based off of their ratio of solved cases versus unsolved cases, and a forced confession is still a solved case, true or not. So it's just the unfortunate reality of it.
Yeah.
I guess to go ahead and start this off, This is a pretty mediocre episode and mediocre comic book for me. I'm not going to say it's super amazing. I mean, what does IMDb give this episode? They give it a 6.8 out of 10. I mean, I would say it's probably about a 6.5, maybe a 7 tops. I mean, the episode's really not bad. I like some of the changes they make. I like the nods to Tales from the Crypt within this episode.
Mhm.
I like the Gilbert Adler nod. I love the A.L. Katz nod. I think those are really, really cool things. I like the half bowling ball. Unfortunately, the special effects in the episode, I think, are very shitty in comparison to what we've gotten in earlier seasons. The decapitated heads really didn't look as good as they did before in other
No,
episodes. The
and
blood
the
didn't.
body didn't
Yeah,
look
the
good.
body
Like
looked horrible.
the body
There was
from
you
when
couldn't
they
even see
first
bone.
started.
I mean, it was still
Yeah, the body from everywhere else, I was like, okay, it's not too bad. And then they show the neck. I'm like, what happened?
yeah. I mean, they really missed the mark on that. I mean, as far as the effects go, I mean,
Like a little hanging viscera, a little bit of the bone.
right. This is why some of the US episodes are just so much better because you got people like fucking Todd Masters doing the special effects for these episodes and Kevin Yeager doing the special effects and stuff for the Crypt Keeper segments.
Yeah,
And I think it's one of the things that makes, like with season 7, it makes the Crypt Keeper segments really shine in comparison because they're just so much better. They're so much more just well done. And like the effects in it are just shit. Luckily, they had a decent story, some decent actors as far as this episode goes.
yeah.
Even having Eddie Izzard playing this kind of role, which is definitely a lot different than what he's ever done before. I mean, I didn't think it was horrible. I mean,
No,
thought she did a good job. It still could have been better with some of the effects, but I mean, there are some scenes in this that were pretty kind of stand out to me. Like when you get Jack kind of like pissed off and he's walking through the office and you see him going through fast. And you see these newspaper clippings rising up because they're all pinned to the fucking walls. And
Mhm.
I mean, there's scenes like that, which I mean, they look great. They have no purpose for the story, but there are things that show that, at least they have some cinematography there that's halfway fucking decent.
Yeah,
But I mean, just overall, it's like a 6.5, 7 episode for me. I mean, the comic book was, I mean, unfortunately, so fucking accurate that I'm not even sure if it was a story or if it was something that really happened.
yeah. Because
I mean,
it's basically from the get-go, somebody leaving a crime scene to go get help, and the cops are like, "Oh no, he must be the murderer. I'll go get him. You stay with the body."
I mean, it just.
And then,
I wouldn't be surprised if this was based off of a true story, like
yeah.
to that point with the comic book.
And then the fact that somebody comes up to them in the story and goes, "The glass doesn't match. There's no blood on his vehicle. He's probably telling the truth. We need to look at this." The lieutenant goes, "He killed my wife. Fuck you. We're getting a confession out of him one way or another."
Right.
I'm like, wow, all right.
I mean, I'm not surprised though.
It's the portrayal, even when reading a comic book, if you're someone like me who tends to start visualize, I mean, even though it's a comic, it's visually on the paper, but you start visualizing and hearing the sounds in your head from what's on the page. When he starts getting beat with the pipe in that story, I'm hearing the thuds land. Like my brain goes into Foley mode, and I'm just like, oh, no.
I've unfortunately heard sounds of steel hitting people, and yeah, I mean that was in my head too. It's like, oh, I know what that sounds like. I definitely know what that feels like.
Yeah, I've heard a few people get hit upside the head with an aluminum baseball bat. So
I mean,
close. It's not the same, but it's close enough where it's sickening.
Right. I mean, for those who don't know, I work at a steel plant, so I know what it sounds like when somebody gets hit with steel. Like,
yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I mean,
it's never a good sound.
No, it never is. With this episode though, man, where would you rate it for you? And what do you think?
I'm right there with you. This is like a 6.5, 7. I did enjoy the story of the comic better, despite the fact that it's so
you did cut out just
incredibly. Oh, did I? Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So what I was saying was, to give it about a 6.5, 7, just like you. I did enjoy the comic more, despite the horrific accuracy of how it is to today's present day police. Still,
Yeah.
just because I had never really read a story that was like that. I mean, I've seen it in the news, but I've never read a comic that portrayed it so accurately,
Right.
and where I didn't really know where it was going. Because I figured, okay, they'll get a confession out of him. What's the end result going to be? I thought maybe it was the guy who came in going, hey, he's not good for this. No, it was the lieutenant who killed his own wife.
Right.
So yeah, I did like the comic a little bit more, but there were things in this episode I enjoyed. I think Eddie Izzard's portrayal of this character, she got a little. There was some shades of Garth Marenghi before Garth Marenghi was a thing.
Yes. Yes.
Like the leather jacket and just the way they were talking. I'm like,
well, I mean, it's
is-
definitely that British kind of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you get that. So
like,
that,
all no
that
people
part
have
doesn't
used
surprise me.
subtext. They're all cowards.
I can't wait to do this.
What are we going to do, Dag?
It's
I
gonna
can't
be
do a
great.
Matt Berry, so
I mean, he has a pretty iconic voice, to be fair.
she's like the proverbial. Sorry.
You guys, we're gonna have so many people either tuning in or tuning out for that one.
No. If anyone's listening right now and you have not watched Dark Place, just do yourself a favor, go watch it now. Amazon Prime, go find it. It's a quick watch. Was it
I mean,
6
that's like
episodes?
what, 2 hours, 10 minutes total.
Yeah.
The whole series.
Yeah. I watched it a couple of weeks ago in one day with no problem and was still able to do whatever else I needed to do. So,
Right. So, anyways, I do have to ask you, what was your question about the Crypt Keeper segments?
okay, so I've noticed the last few episodes that I've been on for, even before, coming on permanently, they don't have a whole lot to do with the episode. Well,
I mean,
particularly the last two. Like
a
Blues
lot
Singer.
of-
So are a lot of them that way, where it's just him doing whatever? They don't really tie into the episode, or was there usually some kind of a little
I mean,
tie?
sometimes it ties in, but a lot of times it's just little puns and stuff. I mean, some of the bigger tie-ins that you get is like when Arnold showed up when he was in an episode, or when Michael J. Fox directed an episode, and I mean, you get little things like that. But I mean, for the most part, it's just like, how can we set up puns to lead to the story? And I mean,
it worked. I'm not complaining. I like the segment.
Right. I will say that's one thing really cool about the Tales from the Crypt trading cards is a lot of those show that kind of stuff on them too. So it's like a little interesting little thing there with those, which I don't know, little cool nods to things. But
yeah.
I mean, a lot of the times they really don't tie in super well. I mean,
okay. I was just curious.
They do have a tie in, but I mean, it's usually going along with the puns and what kind of things that they're going to do. Like some of the earlier ones, they definitely try to tie in a lot more. But as they went on and the animatronics got better, I think they were able to just try to add more of a comedic relief as well with it. But it was still, I mean, I will say that's one of the things they did really well was the Crypt Keeper segments. And I mean, John Cassier's fucking iconic voice for him is just...
Yeah. If they would have got rid of that for season 7, it would
have ruined it. I mean,
yeah,
they fucked it up by itself anyway, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
I was curious because, like I said, I'm not as experienced with Tales from the Crypt as you are.
I still think
so I had to ask because.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. I was just wondering. Like, I was just curious. Like, maybe you've seen something in the background that I never noticed before. Because I mean, there's always those things you just never know.
No, but I do always appreciate that opening sequence because it definitely looks like they filmed on a miniature and then cut to a real set.
They did.
Yeah, which it's obvious when you're watching the upscaled restorations on Crypt 2's Incorporated.
Yes, you can.
Because you can pick out all those details.
YouTube.com/Crypt. John's gonna have to start paying me fucking fees.
I was just looking today about the second watch, and I was like, that's definitely got to be a miniature. And I noticed the only way I
Yes.
noticed was the cut when they opened the door to the inside. You can notice, and that's only on because it's
Right.
upscale.
And you gotta love it too, because back then it was all blue screen. It wasn't even green screen.
Mhm.
And you can really tell when they open the doors.
Yeah,
So
but
I mean,
I miss miniature work. So whatever, I miss miniatures. I miss matte paintings.
dude,
'Cause, I mean,
I do too. We don't get that stuff anymore. I mean,
no,
it's kind of like the intro to Beetlejuice, even going all the way back to the beginning.
yep.
you know, but anyways, man, before we wrap up and get out of here, anything new going on over at the Skewered Universe?
Yeah, we actually just last week we released 2 episodes, which I'm sure you heard about. We're getting ready to record our next episode. We had a couple of personal things we had to sort out, which I mentioned to you the other
Right.
day. So just to let you know, I was going to be here. It wasn't holding me back from that.
Right.
But we're moving right along with our Nightmare on Elm Street retrospective. We're getting ready to do Wes Craven's New Nightmare from 1994. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice. I like that one.
Yeah, we're actually going to sit down and record tomorrow, so it's going to be released in the next couple of days.
Nice. I can't wait to hear that one.
Yeah,
That is one of my personal favorites.
and I don't know if you heard a little bit of news I heard recently. There actually is going to be a fan film that's a follow up to this, Dylan's New Nightmare. It's following the adult Dylan, kind of going back and him having nightmares and stuff. It actually doesn't look too bad. I mean, I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm not having high expectations, and they did bring back Miko Hughes, so
I'm just gonna throw it out there. Some of these fans films have been really, really irritating me recently. There's some that are good. Don't get me wrong. There's some that are bad. It's just the way it is.
right.
But one of my biggest things with a lot of these is like I've ran into 4 instances where they are selling physical copies of other people's property. And some of these fan films are just they're incredibly out of hand with a lot of this shit, and it's just
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, I understand what a fan film is. I understand that they're trying to make money too, but they're making money off of somebody else's shit.
right.
And and some of these are beloved products. Like one of them that really pissed me off. I'm not gonna say the name of the fan film, but I mean, there was a what was it? There was a Friday the 13th one.
Hmm.
And oh god, I'm trying to think of what the other one was.
Well, I've seen both of the Friday the 13th ones.
No, there's more than 2. Give me a second.
Well, I've seen the 2 that I know of that are actually they're not making money off of them. They release them free to YouTube. So like, we just love the franchise.
Right. No, one of them was trying to think of the fucking. Oh, saying the name of that just gives it away too much, but it was damn it.
I think I know what you're talking about. They had a Kickstarter and it actually got shut down.
All right, the original was My Bloody Valentine,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I didn't hear about this one.
And it's just I've just seen so much shit being spoofed off of, ripped off of, but being legitimately sold at stores.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, there's definitely has to be a lawsuit coming, and
Yeah,
I will even say like paid cameos, which are literally cameos from Cameo.
yeah, where they're obviously reading.
Which it's like,
yeah,
God damn it.
I looked into this new Nightmare one, Dylan's New Nightmare, and it's from people who just wanted to do a follow up to that movie. They're obviously fans. It doesn't look like a cash grab. They're running a Kickstarter so they could like get more stuff for the project out there, but it's not like they're trying to make money off of it. I think it's going to be released to YouTube. They're not like trying to push physical copies or like you can buy these ahead of time. I think it's like if you help us, you get your name in the credits. sort of thing.
Right. Which you know,
which I'm like,
I've contributed to those before. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my buddy Steve Merlot, I contributed to the Sawyer massacre,
Mm.
but he didn't sell it. There weren't,
Right.
things like that. It's different when you're throwing it on YouTube for free for people, and if you're asking for donations and you're giving them like merch and things like that, props from the thing, thank you credits. Some of that
Right.
stuff's expensive, so I mean, I get the kind of cool thing with that, and it takes money to make these things. But when you're going and making physical copies of a movie and selling them, there's a different
And
thing
see, there was, and I heard El Goro of all people last year. He was talking about two of the more pronounced Friday the 13th fan films that are on YouTube.
there.
This company, they're not making money. They're like, this is just our way of showing love, but maybe somebody will see what we can do.
Yeah,
Effects wise and stuff. It's like their demo reel of what they can do. But there was another one who got their crowdfunding campaign shut down because they were listing they were going to sell things, they were going to create merchandise for it, and Paramount stepped in and was like, well, you're going to have to give us X amount of dollars for that because that's our property.
Exactly.
That's our IP, and you're not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it wasn't a Friday the 13th, it was a Star Trek thing.
Oh,
it was a Star Trek thing.
Yeah, don't fuck with that one.
I'm like, that's the cash cow. You're not going to take that away. Paramount will say, you're going to give us all the money from it, or we're going to sue you into oblivion.
Right.
And
That's
they
like
just
trying
had
to find a
shut it
rip-off Star Wars shirt. I'll tell you right now, I had a friend of mine. He was like, we're going to see what would happen if I do this. And he made like a fake Star Wars shirt and posted it. That thing lasted like 20-something minutes online before it got took down. Yeah. And it was just like as a joke thing to see how fast Disney would do that. I mean, I was like, whoa, that was quick as fuck.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, it's War Stars, not Star Wars.
Oh, dude, no, this was like this was a super ripoff. But I mean, it was just like, wow. Like, yeah, they don't fuck around with those things, dude. And they shouldn't either.
Lucasfilm didn't screw around really back in the day, but now you've got Disney.
Yeah.
Disney doesn't fuck around with anything.
Disney has Disney money. There's a big difference there,
Exactly.
All Lucas's money is Disney money now.
Yeah. Exactly.
He didn't have that money beforehand.
And that's what kills me is the people that complain about going to Disneyland and Disney World, the prices are so high, yet they still go. I'm like, so stop going.
I don't go.
Yeah. The last time I went was 2009. I was like, that was too damn expensive. I haven't been back since.
I've never been. And I'm not driving. It would take me fucking like 15 to 20 hours just to get to any Disney property.
Yeah.
So there's no point.
I live not too far from Disneyland, the OG here.
Right.
In California, and I don't like going. Would I like to go to see the Marvel stuff? Of course. Galaxy's Edge? Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I going to take out a third mortgage?
$5,000 to fucking, No way, no.
It's insane. Then they go, well, it's justified because it's an entertainment experience at a resort. I'm like, you're not a resort. You're a theme park in Anaheim, California. 5 minutes in either direction, we can get into the ghetto. No. And I'm serious about that.
See, I don't know. Where I live, I'm like, I could drive probably about 2 hours, maybe 2.5, and get to Cedar Point. And the whole family can have a whole day worth of fun for less than $500.
Yeah, I have Knott's Berry Farm, which is a Cedar Point owned park.
Right.
It's a Cedar Fair property, so it's.
What I
used to work there too. So.
I miss SeaWorld. I know they were horrible and all this stuff, but goddamn, did I love seeing caged animals do tricks.
Dude. That's where I learned. That's where I learned about my love of sharks, and how cool stingrays are.
Right.
And then how badly you can smell after feeding dolphins fish all day, and then you wipe it on your new SeaWorld sweatshirt your parents bought you.
Oh yeah.
So out in the sun in hot San Diego weather, yeah, you don't smell good after like an hour.
See, in the cool northern Ohio area, getting splashed by the rip-off Shamu because we didn't have the real one. I forget what we had. We had like Bland Blue or something. But man, damn, it was still cool seeing all that stuff. I wish I would have been able to see one of the whales kill somebody, though. I mean, I feel like that show, like, they really got more than they got to pay for. Like, man, shit, lucky bastards.
Yeah, it was cool. And then I realized later on how bad they were. I'm like, oh,
I
okay,
mean,
yeah.
it didn't seem that bad when I was
It
there.
didn't
They
when
seemed
I
like
was
they
there.
had fun. I mean,
Yeah,
they were getting fish for free. They didn't have to do any work. Like, think about that for a minute, right? All right. Say, yeah, you were in a cage. Say the cage was pretty big, though. I mean, it's a big cage. And they gave you food. They gave you everything you needed. They made sure you were healthy. But they kept you in that area. Is that really that bad?
I mean, from the impression I got, all those animals were not going to be re-released into the wild anyway because they couldn't survive on their own. So,
Exactly. Is it really that bad, though? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't
if you
seem
released them into the
horrible.
wild, they'd probably just get killed by a predator naturally within days of
Right.
being out there.
I
so.
mean, it's kind of like us in like mental asylums and stuff like that. Like, these people are mentally fucked up. Like, we're not going to release them back into the world. We're going to keep them in the same kind of area. And people are sitting there going around saying that's cruel.
Well,
I mean, they kind of
unfortunately,
did.
well, yeah, there's not too many of those around anymore, and they did basically release them out to the open and go, you deal with it. Hey, society at large, you deal with them. You're the bleeding hearts, take care of it. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa, they need medical attention. They're like, fuck you, they do.
I mean, I don't know. The old days, man. We need to go back to keeping our mentally disabled people in rooms and our animals in cages. Oh, and there goes the show.
Oh, man. Albino free-range chicken, I want them as caged as possible.
Right? All albinos, even the people. No. How dare they walk around this world acting like that?
Oh, my God. Oh.
It's not. You can't say you're prejudiced or anything if you have just a problem with albino people. Like,
You're right. You're right.
I know.
You're right.
I know. I've thought about this. You know,
The albinos run the gamut. They're all of us.
it's like being the modern Hitler, but only hating albino people.
God, it's the ginger episode of South Park where Cartman's rallying all the gingers to take out everyone else. Jesus.
Right. Oh God. Well, with that being said, we need to get the fuck out of here, man. It's
All right, man.
lovely as always. I can't wait to hear this New Nightmare episode. That's for sure. I love New Nightmare. And
Me too,
thanks.
man. It's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Check us out. Give us, ratings, good ones. If you're gonna give us bad ones, you can just fuck yourself.
5
yeah.
stars only.
5 stars only, or go fuck yourself. Yep.
Come on, we're giving you gold here, people.
Right. You see, you either give us 5 stars or give yourself 5 inches in your ass. That should be our new motto. I should take out the terrifyingly fun podcast and 5 stars for us or 5 inches in your ass.
I think that's a good one. I think we could then take the explicit tag off and we could market this to children.
I mean, I've been thinking about.
Oh God! What did I just imply? God damn it!
I think you're implying that it's okay for only children to put 5 inches in their ass.
No, I'm really not. That's not what I meant. That is not what I meant. Oh God!
I know.
Bye.
With that being said, the crypt is closed. See you next week.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening, kiddies. You're all a scream.